Lagos traffic has its own rhythm. Horns blaring, Danfo conductors hanging dangerously from the sides of buses, shouting Ojalegba, Ojalegba, one chance remain. Hawkers squeezing through impossible spaces, selling everything from chilled pure water sachets to roasted groundnuts. Drivers muttering curses under their breath. Everyone's in a hurry, but still stuck in the same endless queue. Inside her air-conditioned car, Inialiwa sat with poise, her navy blue suit pressed neat, her hair let down as if she knows she is beautiful in any hairstyle she wears, her makeup subtle but sharp, the look of a woman who knew where she was going. Phone pressed to her ear. She spoke in a measured voice. "No, Chief Ade, I said 50 million, not 45. Yes, if they want that property in Lekki Phase 1, they'll pay for it." Her tone was firm, calm, the way only someone used to closing deals could manage. At 43, Inialiwa was more than just a real estate agent. She was a force. Every inch of her life was ordered, deliberate, built brick by brick. A few cars behind, Aliwa Palumi was in another world entirely. His music blasted Burna Boy live. His head bounced, and every now and then he'd burst out singing a lyric, not caring who heard. At 29, Palumi was sunshine in human form. He was the type who turned ordinary moments into jokes, who could make strangers laugh in the middle of Lagos stress. And then, bam, a sudden stop in traffic, a miscalculation. Aine's phone slipped from her fingers. Her heart jumped. For a split second, she just sat there in disbelief. Then, with a sharp inhale, she opened her door. Her heels clicked against the hot asphalt as she marched to the back. "Are you blind?" she snapped, pointing at the small dent. "Do you know how much this car costs?" But instead of panic, shouting, or even embarrassment, Palumi just looked at her. Quiet, calm, almost smiling. And that only made her angrier. Aine's words flew like bullets. "You young boys drive like Lagos belongs to you. No sense of responsibility. Look at this. Who will fix it? You." Her hands moved with every word, sharp, dramatic. The way Lagos women punctuate anger with gestures. But Palumi, he didn't raise his voice, didn't argue. He just kept his eyes on her, and for the first time in his life, he thought, "This is it. This is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Do you think this is funny?" Aine barked, narrowing her eyes. Palumi shook his head slowly, lips curving into the faintest smile. His voice came low, steady. "I'll fix it. Don't worry." He leaned back into his car, pulled out a simple card, and held it out. "Call me. Anytime." Aine snatched the card. "Men like you think everything can be solved with charm," she muttered. Palumi's grin tilted. "Not everything, but maybe this one." She spun on her heel, heels clicking back toward her car to pick her card. She gives it to him and said, "You better call me. I won't be the one calling you to fix my car." Their eyes locked for a brief moment. The noise of traffic around them faded, like Lagos itself had paused. Palumi's gaze was warm, steady. Aine's was fiery, defiant. Then she huffed, entered her car, and slammed the door. That night, Aine sat on her sofa, work files scattered around her. The card lay beside her glass of wine. She picked it up once, then dropped it, muttering under her breath, "Nonsense. Gosh, he looks like a college student. I can't believe this." But still, her eyes kept straying back to the card. Meanwhile, across town, Palumi was restless. Normally, he'd be joking with his friends on WhatsApp or binging Netflix without a care. But tonight, he couldn't shake her from his mind. He had replayed the way she stormed toward him in traffic, the fire in her voice, the strength in her presence. For the first time, he felt nervous pressing a number. Finally, he dialed. 2 rings. Then her clipped voice answered. "If this is about the car." "It is," Palumi interrupted, a little too quickly. Then his tone softened. "But, I'm surprised you saved my number." "I didn't." Palumi laughed gently. "Okay, maybe not. But I want to fix your car over dinner, to apologize properly." Silence stretched. Aine's instinct was to end the call, to remind him she didn't mix business with childish games, to keep her boundaries intact. But instead she smiled. Just a little. And for the first time in years, something in her chest stirred. Something she thought she had locked away. The night of their first dinner, and Iowa almost didn't go. She stood in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection like it was an opponent she had to convince. Her pearl earrings catching the light. She whispered to herself, "It's just a dinner. Nothing more. He hit your car. That's all." She smoothed her hair, sighed, and grabbed her purse. But the truth, she felt nervous. It had been a long time since a man made her feel this way. And the fact that it was him, younger, playful, unpredictable, made no sense to her at all. When Aine walked into the restaurant, Pulumi was already there. He stood immediately. His crisp black shirt with gold buttons was neatly tucked, but the grin on his face gave him away. Playful, boyish, almost too open. Dinner began, and to Aine's surprise, it wasn't what she expected. She thought Pulumi would flirt carelessly, or try to impress her with empty talk. Instead, he leaned in, asking about her work, her childhood memories, her favorite places in Lagos, even the silly things she did when no one was watching. At first, Aine answered cautiously guarded, but soon, she found herself laughing, really laughing, at his little stories. The way he described Lagos traffic like a living monster, or how he once got lost in Balagan Market, and ended up helping a stranger sell shoes for an hour. And Pulumi? He was captivated. Every flicker of her smile, every tilt of her head, every time she laughed, it was like he was seeing the world light up. At one point, when Aine waved her hand to make a point, Pulumi leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "You know," he said softly, "I actually like the way you scold people. Even me. It suits you." She gasped, half amused, half annoyed. "That's the worst compliment I've ever heard." But her lips betrayed her, curving into a smile that lingered even as she shook her head. That dinner turned into another, then another. It wasn't long before Aine caught herself waiting for his calls, then pretending she wasn't. She told herself she was too busy, that he was just a distraction. But still she answered. Still she laughed. Still she let him in, little by little. Pulumi didn't chase too hard. He didn't flood her phone or pressure her with words. He just showed up, consistent, playful, present. And somehow, that was more disarming than anything else. One Saturday morning, Aine was at her yoga class, stretched out on her mat, hair tied back in a neat bun, sweat glistening lightly on her forehead. She moved with focus, her body balanced in a warrior pose, when the studio door creaked open. There he was, Pulumi, standing with a paper bag in hand, grinning like he had every right to be there. Inside the bag, the smell of fresh pastries drifted out. "What are you doing here?" Aine whispered, trying not to break her pose. "Bringing you breakfast," Pulumi said casually, lifting the bag. "Trying to impress you with sugar. Did it work?" A few people in the class chuckled under their breath. Aine rolled her eyes, heat rising in her cheeks. She tried to keep her balance, but the blush gave her away. Their days began to stretch beyond dinners. Pulumi pulled her into his world, loud, colorful, spontaneous. He took her to Balagan Market, weaving confidently through the chaos. "Follow me," he said, laughing, as hawkers shouted prices in their ears. He bargained for a cap and scarf set, then crowned her with them proudly in the middle of the street. Aine covered her face, mortified, but she didn't take them off. Another weekend, they drove out to Tarqua Bay. They sat side by side on the sand, roasted corn in hand, their toes buried in the cool earth as the waves stretched endlessly before them. The sunset spilled gold across the water, and for the first time in years, Aine felt weightless. And then there was the night traffic caught them again. The same Lagos traffic that had brought them together. This time, though, there was no shouting, no scolding. They sat in Pulumi's car, windows rolled down, singing along to Davido at the top of their voices. Hawkers knocked on the glass with gala, plantain chips, and cheap phone chargers. But Aini didn't care. She laughed until her sides ached, tears of joy rolling down her face. Somewhere between those small, ordinary moments, something shifted. Aini realized she wasn't just spending time with him. She was happy. Truly happy. Not the polished smile she wore in boardrooms, not the practiced laugh she gave at family dinners, but real joy. Easy. Light. Joyful. And then, without warning, the moment came. One evening, halfway through dinner, Palumi's fork slipped from his hand. He took a slow breath, his chest rising and falling like he was steadying himself. Then his eyes met hers, serious, more serious than she had ever seen him. "Inialiwa," he said, his voice calm but steady. "I want to marry you." The world around them went still. Aini's heart thumped hard against her ribs. She stared at him, searching his face for the usual grin, the playful wink. But there was none of that. No jokes. No teasing. Just Palumi, bare and honest. Her lips parted, but the words didn't come. For the first time, Inialiwa was speechless. Palumi leaned back, still steady, still sure. "Think about it," he said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." And Aini sat frozen, her breath shallow, her mind spiraling. She wasn't sure if she was terrified, or if this was the first time in years that she felt alive. It was a Sunday evening when Palumi finally decided. He had been putting it off, circling the thought for weeks, but he knew he couldn't hide it forever. If he truly wanted to marry Inialiwa, his family had to know. He was quiet in the car, his fingers tapping the steering wheel, his eyes focused on the road. Inialiwa studied him carefully. Something in the way he was holding the silence told her this wasn't just another casual visit. "Come with me," Palumi said at last, reaching across to take her hand. His grip was warm, steady. "Let's do this together." Her heart skipped. She had been dreading this moment, pretending it would never come. "Are you sure, Palumi?" she asked, her voice small, betraying the calm expression she wore. "Yes, Inialiwa," he said with more certainty than she expected. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. "I want them to see the woman I love." His parents lived in a large, traditional house in Naija. The kind of house that smelled like history, where every picture frame and cushion carried a memory. The aroma of stew drifted from the kitchen, and the chatter of cousins and relatives floated in from the sitting room. Mama Dupe, Palumi's mother, was the first to appear. She embraced her son warmly, her face lighting up. Then her eyes shifted to Inialiwa. The smile remained, polite but curious, weighing and measuring. "Welcome," Mama Dupe said, her tone careful, almost too careful. "This is Inialiwa," Palumi said proudly, squeezing her hand as if to remind her she wasn't alone. At first, everything was easy. His mother asked about her work, about her childhood. They spoke of traffic, of Lagos life, of food. Inialiwa answered with grace, keeping her tone light. She even made them laugh once or twice. For a moment, she thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But then his father leaned forward, his voice calm but direct. "How old are you, my dear?" Inialiwa hesitated only a second, then answered honestly. 43, sir." The air shifted. It was like a switch had been flipped. The room, once filled with chatter, now seemed too quiet. "You're 43? His father repeated, each word heavy, deliberate. "Yes, sir." Silence. The kind that presses against your chest. His father leaned back, disappointment clouding his features. He shook his head slowly. "Palumi, no. You cannot marry her. This is not our way." Mama Dupe's sigh was soft but sharp, filled with resignation. "She's a good woman, but you are too young. Our people will not understand. You will have no respect. Children? A future. Think of your life, my son." Palumi's jaw tightened. "But I love her. That should be enough." His father's voice rose, unshaken. "Love is not enough. Tradition is tradition. We cannot accept this." The ride home was suffocating. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Lagos lights flashed through the window, reflecting in Ninialua's eyes. She stared outside, her lips pressed together, fighting the sting of tears. Pulumi finally reached across, his hand searching for hers, but she pulled away gently. That broke him more than her silence. "Ninialua," he whispered, his voice cracking for the first time. She turned, her eyes glassy. "Pulumi, I can't be the reason you fight your family. I can't let you choose between me and them." "But I already chose you." "No," her voice cracked. She forced herself to steady it. "Not like this. You'll resent me one day. You'll wake up and wish you listened to them. And I'll never forgive myself for being the reason you lost them." He shook his head, desperate. "Ninialua, please." But she pressed her hand to his cheek, silencing him. Her touch was tender, even in the middle of heartbreak. Her voice was soft, final. "I love you, Alua Pulumi, but sometimes love isn't enough." And with that, she opened the door, stepping out of the car, leaving him in the quiet he couldn't fill. Weeks passed. Ninialua drowned herself in work. She sold houses, toured properties, laughed with clients, but the laughter never reached her eyes. At night, she danced in her kitchen, music loud, body moving, but it was only to fight the silence. She was trying to forget, but every song reminded her of him. Pulumi tried too. He went out with friends, smiled when they teased him, but inside he was restless. He saw her everywhere, in the reflection of city lights on his windshield, in the laughter of women at the market, in the clay cup she once gave him that still sat on his table. They were apart, but the city kept reminding them of each other. Then, one afternoon, Ninialua's phone rang. She answered with her usual sharp, professional tone. "Hello, this is Ninialua." "Good afternoon. I'm interested in buying a property," the man said. His voice was calm, steady, familiar. She froze. "Pulumi, it's me," he admitted after a pause. His voice was careful, almost afraid. "Can we meet? Just once more." Her heart pounded. She should have said no, but she agreed. Weeks blurred into months, but the tension never left. Every Sunday, Pulumi faced his father's disapproval head-on. "You're throwing away your future." His father thundered more than once, his voice echoing through the sitting room like a final verdict. But Pulumi never flinched. He never raised his voice. He only stood his ground, steady as stone, his love for Ninialua written in every choice he made. Ninialua, on the other hand, fought a quieter war. She smiled for her clients, closing deals and handing over house keys with practiced grace. But behind the smile was a constant ache. At night, Mama Dupe sat on the edge of the bed, her voice low but firm as she spoke to her husband. "My dear, don't you remember?" she said, her eyes soft but steady. "When we were young, your family did not want me. They said I was not the right woman for you because I could not give you a child. Do you forget how they frowned? How they whispered? But you stood by me. And in time, your father looked me in the eyes and called me his daughter. You proved them wrong with your love for me. Pulumi is your son. He carries that same fire. How can we now deny him the chance to stand by the woman he loves?" Her husband's silence was heavy, his jaw tight, but her words hung in the air, pressing against the years of pride and tradition he clung to. Then, one evening, her phone lit up with a name she had stopped herself from calling 100 times. Pulumi. His voice was softer than she remembered, but steady. "Ninialua, they want to see you. Please come." Her chest tightened. Against every instinct, against every fear, she went. When she arrived at his family's home in Naija, her heart pounded so hard she thought the neighbors could hear it. She expected the same stares, the same cold walls of rejection. But at the gate, Mama Dupe stood waiting. "My daughter," Mama Dupe said, her voice trembling as she reached out to hold Inie's hand. "Please come inside." The house felt different this time. No noisy relatives, no judgmental whispers, just a heavy stillness. In the sitting room, Palumi's father sat in his chair, his face unreadable, his hands clasped together. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then, slowly, his father leaned forward. His voice, though rough, carried something new. Hesitation. "Inialiwa," he began. "I was wrong." The words struck the air like thunder. Inialiwa's breath caught in her throat. She searched his face for signs of mockery, but found none. "I thought age was everything. I thought people's opinions mattered more than my son's happiness," he continued, his voice low. "But I have watched him these past months, how he refuses to bend, how he stands by you even when it costs him peace. A love like that," he exhaled deeply, "a love like that is rare." Mama Dupe, her eyes wet, placed a hand over Inie's. "We wanted to protect him, to secure a future we thought was best. But perhaps we forgot that he knows his own heart better than we do." Palumi's father rose slowly. His commanding presence softened, humility etched in every line of his face. He turned to Inialiwa, and for the first time, he bowed his head ever so slightly. "If you will have us," he said, voice breaking just enough, "we will have you." Tears filled Inialiwa's eyes before she could stop them. Palumi's hand slipped into hers, warm, strong, unwavering. "Inialiwa," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "Did you hear that?" She nodded, unable to speak, her tears falling freely now. And for the first time since this love began, she smiled without fear. The wedding was small, intimate, but radiant. Friends and family filled the hall, their laughter rising with the music, their joy spilling across the room. The smell of jollof and suya filled the air. Children twirled on the dance floor, and even Palumi's stern father cracked a rare smile. Palumi and Inialiwa stood at the altar, their hands intertwined, their eyes locked like two souls who had fought a long battle and finally won. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, Palumi leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. "Inialiwa forever starts today." She looked up at him, her voice steady, full of the strength she once feared she didn't have. "Aliwa Palumi," she whispered back, "I'm ready." The crowd erupted in cheers as they sealed their vows with a kiss, not just a kiss of passion, but one of victory, a reconciliation of love, tradition, and acceptance.
You love this story, don't you? If you want to hear more stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. It really helps this channel. I'll see you in the next one.